Hello, Mark.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited. Thank you for accepting my invitation to be with my followers, some of my followers, and I'm excited to meet some of your followers too. For those of you that don't know Mark, he's one of the youngest authors and one of the best selling authors in USA. And his podcast, Breakthrough Success, is one of the top in America. He has thousands of students around the globe, exactly in more than 180 nations. And we're very excited uh, to have him here. The way that I know Mark is because I have purchased a bunch of his books. The one that I love the most is How to Make Money Writing Nonfiction Books, and this is the subject that we're going to be addressing tonight. So, Mark, thank you so much, and I hope you have fun speaking to my crowd, speaking to my people, and God bless your hearts. Este es Marc Guberti, uno de los mejores autores, éxito de venta, señores, en Estados Unidos. He leído sus libros, tiene tremendos libros y yo sé que ustedes van a disfrutar la enseñanza. Uno de los libros de Mark que más disfruto es Cómo hacer dinero escribiendo libros de no ficción. Y yo sé que ustedes van a disfrutar las enseñanzas de Mark, quien está aquí gratuitamente. Go ahead, brother.
Pedro, thank you so much for inviting me on this Instagram Live. And nonfiction books, they're a really great way to monetize. So we're going to get into a lot of that in this presentation. So when it comes to making money with books, there are a lot of people who they just think about the book royalties, but there is so much more to making money with books than just the royalties, because it's not just about those, about what the book can do for you. For some people, they write a book because they want to get on more stages. Other people, they write a book because they want to get more leads for their business. So before even thinking about writing books, think about what your business is, what are your goals, and then write books that match up with those. So let's say that you want to get more coaching clients and you help people with their social media. And then write a social media book, because readers who go through that book are, at the end of it, they're going to want to follow your work. They're going to possibly schedule that strategy call with you. So think about what you want your book to do for your business, and then that allows you to get to that next level of growth. And some of the things you can do inside a book to boost your revenue is mention that you have clients. So have the testimonials in there. One of the things that I like to do is, for anyone who's gone through one of my training courses or anyone who has successfully launched their podcast, because I've coached them through that process, I like to include those case studies, testimonials in the book. And that's a way to basically say, not only do you have clients, but you're also getting good results as well. So any types of success stories. And in your book, you have the opportunity to take people on a journey. When someone goes through 80 pages, 100 pages, 200 pages, they're committing hours of their time with your book. So when you do present them with the opportunity to follow you on social media, that's a way to continue the conversation even more. So a book is just a gateway to being able to start the relationship and expand on it very quickly. And you can use a book to grow your email list also. So there are a lot of authors who, on the very first page, there's a call to action, something related to the book, and you get email subscribers. So one of my things for my book, Content Marketing Secrets, I have the Content Marketing Success Summit, which is an evergreen virtual event. And the two tie in together. And some of the people who read that book will proceed to join my email list by joining the Success Summit. So that's part of understanding what you want your book to do for you. And the great thing about writing more books is that it gives you repeat customers. So with writing nonfiction books, Pedro mentioned my book. I've written over 24 books so far, and there are people who they'll buy 4, 5, 6, even 7 of my books in one spot, in one moment. And Pedro, I know you mentioned you have multiple copies of my book. That's not possible if you only have one book. So the moment you have two books, that doubles your royalty potential, but that also lengthens the journey that someone is on with you. So when someone buys two of your books, I like to do mine 80 to 100 pages, and some people may do 200 pages, but 80 to 100 pages, now we're all of a sudden, instead of that much read content, we're now talking 200 or 300 pages, and that is just more relationship building. One of the things I've noticed with anything I've done, whether it's books, YouTube, or Instagram, you never get a client or you never get any type of sale right away. It's the person who's watched 10 of my YouTube videos and then is ready to commit. It's the person who's been following me on Instagram for years. It's the person who has read a whole bunch of my books and then they schedule that strategy call. So This is a very long-term game when it comes to relationship building. A book is certainly a great way to amplify that. When you do make the decision to write multiple books, that allows you to just expand on that. Now, one of the big challenges people have is the book writing process, because writing a book is hard in itself, but then when you want to say 2 books, 3 books, 4 books, and like 24 books, which is my case, the habits that you develop are going to be vital. So my goal for each day is to write 1,000 words every day for all my books. And in a month, that's 30,000 words. And most of my books are around 15 to 20,000 words because I only go for 80 to 100 pages. So when you do the math that way, the idea of writing a book a month or a book a quarter, because I understand some people, they are more invested in their businesses. And for some people, a book is like a side thing. For other people, a book is a full-time thing. But 1,000 words is very doable. If you keep doing it each day, you can get to the point where it just takes 30 minutes to reach that goal of 1,000 words. And then that's going to be something that builds into a lot of books. Now,
so how about, before you continue, how about those aspiring authors that they say, I don't have nothing to write about? What do you suggest to those authors?
So if you are an author you're an aspiring author and you don't know what to write about something that interests you, write about something that relates to your business, especially if you want to make money with the nonfiction book. Like if you want to make a passion project, then write about something that interests you and that could make some money. But if you want to really accelerate the nonfiction books from a revenue standpoint, think about what are your services you already offer, what type of business do you want to start if you don't have a business yet, and align that with the book that you are going to write.
Wow. Before you continue, now for authors, I made a question about aspiring authors, and you just gave us a great answer. How about those authors that have 2, 3 books and they encounter themselves with a block, the famous block of authors, how to unblock and start writing? What is the instrument that you have to unblock yourself and start writing?
So the best way to unblock yourself is to get really clear on the outline. So if you feel like you're at a block, it's not that you can't write, because you could write about any topic right now. It's like if you get creative and you think outside of your book, like maybe you write about how your day went, like it's not an issue of writing. It's an issue of not having the right ideas, not knowing how you want to proceed. So if you feel like you have writer's block, create a deeper outline. If you're in the middle of your book and you have writer's block, look back at your work and create a deeper perspective for that outline. The deeper you go with the outline, the less likely you are to hit writer's block. And if you do hit writer's block, you got to go back to your outline.
Wow, amazing. So you can continue with your subject.
Definitely. So more books gives you the ability for repeat customers. And when you do each book, it means you are doing more book launches. Because I feel like a lot of authors, especially mind map, I see quotes, yeah, mind map is really great strategy for just being able to come up with the like the outline. But when it comes to the book launches, I feel like there's so many people who think their first book is going to be their best ever, and they try and perfect it. They take 2 years to put it out, and they feel like the first book launch has to be a massive success. But understand that your first book isn't going to be perfect, and understand that your first book launch might be good, might be bad. For most people, it's bad. And the reason for that is you're doing something for the first time. So my very first book was just 37 pages. And
Wow.
it's very short, nothing like the type of stuff I do now. And I didn't really have that much of a marketing plan for it. I pretty much thought at the time, because I was new, that I'm publishing on Amazon. They have billions of customers at this point. I mean, they have such a massive amount of customers, and you do numbers like, oh, if just 1% of 1% of those customers find me, I'm set. But that's not how it works. Like, you have to do a lot of the work to get the initial sales. Then Amazon kicks in and helps you out a little bit. But if you just focus on production, if you just focus on getting it published, and you learn more along the way, that's going to help you on the book launch journey. That doesn't mean if you know how to do a book launch, that's going to help you. So that's going to be this part of this video. Like, the more book launches you do, the better you get. But there are some shortcuts, like if you know what to do.
Wow.
So when it comes to book launches, I feel like many people have this misconception that you do it all on your own. You do it with your platform, you do it with your audience, you put in your work, but there's a lot more to that. So I've been a part of Damon John's book launches. I've been involved with 2 of them. And I wrote a USA Today bestseller that it was myself and 23 other authors that came together to write that book. So it's got a lot of co-authors. So the lesson I learned from those book launches is it's never just one person. The best-selling books, you've got dozens, if not even hundreds of people who are involved in making that bestseller happen. So start building the relationships now. Like these lives that Pedro does, this is a great way for him to be building the relationships with people like myself. So that's why I always tell people to start a podcast. It's a great way to build relationships. You don't want to have to build the relationship when you need someone. You don't want to have to say like, oh, hi, this is like the first time we're meeting. I have a book. I need help. That's not the way you want to start a relationship. You want to start a relationship by saying, hey, you want to come on my podcast, you interview that person, you continue to engage, and then you say, hey, I have this book coming up. I'd really love if you can help me out with this. We have a goal we're trying to hit. Maybe you want to be a USA Today bestseller. Maybe you just want to be a bestseller on Amazon, which is a lot easier to do. You just pick a category and you're off to the races. Like a category that's, there's not as much competition for it. So being able to build the relationships with other authors, especially ones in your niche, not just other authors. Like if you are in nonfiction and you have relationships with authors who are all in the fiction world, you could get some sales, but it's just going to be harder. So a lot of the authors I know are also other people who help authors become successful. I know a lot of YouTubers. If I have a book planned, I will make it a point to connect with people who they speak to the type of audience that I know my book needs to go out there and serve. So being really strategic about the authors you partner up with is vital, and just how you build those relationships as well. And you still have to promote to your audience. It's not like you've got even like 5 people. Like, let's just start really small, because the big time bestsellers who get the 100+ people, they either have like marketing teams behind them or they're no stranger to the book launch process. So let's say you get 5 people, you still have to do promotion yourself. And for long-term success with the book, it's not just about how many sales you can get during launch, but what goes after that. So one of the biggest mistakes and common mistakes people make is when the book launches, they will promote it to their entire audience. The reason this is a mistake is because you get a spike in sales, but then you get a drop. Amazon likes it when you see momentum. Amazon likes it. Amazon would prefer it if you get 5 sales today, then 4 sales tomorrow, then 6 sales the following day versus one day of 12 sales and then another day of like 2 sales, 1 sale, 0. And then you're just on the seesaw between 0 sales and 1 sale. So when you have the book launch, promote it in segments. So on the first day that the book comes out, share it with some of the people on your email list. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Facebook. On the next day, share it with your Instagram followers, your YouTube subscribers, the other part of your email list you didn't engage with. And if you have 3 different audience groups, then that's going to indicate momentum for Amazon versus this one grand day where your book thrives and it does very well, but it's not the consistent sales that Amazon wants to see. Because if you get the big spike in sales, that could be like, oh, maybe friends bought it. But if you're getting consistent sales, then Amazon's going to say this book is performing consistent. It's not like it just did well one day and died off. It's doing consistent. So it's going to naturally rank higher on the Amazon algorithm. So there is an element where just as it's important to write the books, write a whole bunch of books because you get more practice with the whole process, it's just as important to understand the Amazon algorithm and what they want. So I could jump into Amazon ads just a little bit. I don't know, Pedro, if you have a question for me, if you just want me to continue on the Amazon ads.
Yes, thank you, Mark. We know that some authors hate to self-promote. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, most authors, you know, they hate to self-promote. So what is the best promotional plan or method that you recommend to an author?
So I'll answer that. I just want to say that if you're an author who doesn't like the promotional piece, understand, because I know authors who they just love the creation process, but they hate the marketing. But the promotion is how you actually get the readers. That's how you actually make the type of income where you can continue with writing books. So rather than a hobby, it's something that you could really embrace full time when you do put your marketing cap on. So when it comes to actually promoting the books, there's a few different stages. I mentioned a lot of what you do on launch day, but you could even go back before this and ask for people's opinions. So a common strategy, you get 3 different book covers and you ask your audience, which one do you like the most? And I have sometimes done this and gotten the answer I did not expect. And then I would go back and make changes and do another survey of my audience, which cover do you like the most? I usually do this on Facebook. And that gets people engaged with the book. You get a lot more people who will ask you about when it comes up. You have a lot more people who will be following you, paying more attention to you because they know you have this book coming out. And you get this idea of what cover your audience likes the most. Cover is very important on Amazon, and it's easy as an author to think yours is the gem. Your book, your cover is all beautiful. But when you hear from your audience, when you're able to hear from outside people, get that good feedback, that's going to help you create a better cover while setting your book up for more sales.
Wow, wow, wow. Incredible. And talking about the cover design, do you have any suggestions for authors how to get a nice cover? Is it good to hire a professional? We know that a cover design might cost a few hundreds of dollars depending upon the company or the person, the graphic designer. So do you have any ideas of how to get a nice cover design affordable?
So I'll talk about DIY and then the paid option. When you pay someone for cover, it's usually better just because you're talking to someone who's more seasoned with creating covers and graphic design. If you do want to create your own cover, you just want to DIY this. I did this for the first few of my books. Naturally, they didn't sell too well because I didn't really even do book launch. Like my whole marketing strategy is very light for those books because as I mentioned, the more of them you create, the better you get. But if you want to do the DIY route, Canva is a really great resource. I've actually used them for some of my covers. Even for some of my top performing books, I have used Canva. It's a really easy way to create book covers. If you want to do the paid route, I'd recommend using Fiverr. I mean, you can get a really high quality book cover for $5 or $10. And especially when it comes to the paperback versions, it's just better to delegate that, because that could take hours of time to, you got to have the right spine size. You got to make sure the text is on the spine and everything's aligned. So if you are doing paperback, it's definitely better to delegate that using something like Fiverr. And the reason I'd recommend, because I know some people, they'll pay hundreds of dollars for their cover, a whole lot more for other parts of the book. But the reason I recommend a low priced approach, something like Fiverr, is because we're talking about how to make money with nonfiction books here. And it's not just about, you know, like, oh, cool, I made this much in my royalties and I got like a client here. It's also about, did I have to spend thousands of dollars to market this book? Did I have to spend $100 on the book cover and $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on editing? So it's just as important to think about profit as it is about the revenue. And if you get a great cover on Fiverr, which I'm just showing my books here because all of those are from Fiverr, the YouTube Coded, the Build Your Authority platform. Those are Canva. The Content Marketing Secrets, I'll just move away, and Podcast Domination. Those, and the Wealthy Author in the back, those are Fiverr. So
do you want to recommend any special person on Fiverr that we can go and find him or find her?
I just go with whoever I see next, because some people, they change their prices. And...
Good, thank you.
So, I mean, that's just, you want to think about those expenses. I could go into Amazon ads, because that's a common expense as well. Amazon ads are really great for getting those evergreen sales, because even if you do your book launch and you do the strategy I mentioned about momentum, that's going to help you get more sales. But all it really takes is 2 days for a book to not sell, like you have 0 sales 2 days in a row for one of your books. And that book is pretty much back to square one in most cases, because Amazon wants to make money. And if your book sells and it makes them money, then yes, they'll promote it. But if you've got 2 days where you have 0 sales, you could have like a really high Amazon sales rank, and they will push the books that make them the most money. It's just in Amazon's best interest. So a way to continue to get your books pushed is to use Amazon ads. And Amazon ads, there's a whole bunch of ways to approach this. I like to use Publisher Rocket. It's a really great resource to just come up with hundreds and even thousands of keywords in just a few clicks instead of a ton of research. Just Publisher Rocket trims that down for you. But there are some things you have to pay attention to. One is your cost per click. If you are spending a ton of money on, if you're spending like $1 per click, which I never recommend, but let's say you are spending $1 per click and you make $2 per sale, because that's what the royalty structure looks like if you're selling for $2.99 Kindle, which is common. So can you convert every 2 clicks? Because at $1 per click, it's $2 is 2 clicks, and you make $2 per book sale. So you have to have the cost per click at a low enough rate. I suggest anything like 30 cents or below, to a point where it's reasonable. Some people, they'll look at the Amazon ads, they'll see sales are coming in, but if you're spending $100 to get $50 worth in sales, again, this is where we talk about, it's one thing to make revenue, making a profit is entirely different. So you want to look at your cost per click, look for ways to trim that down. There are some Amazon ads that look really bad on the surface, but it's just one keyword that is messing up that ad that is getting a ton of attention. But it's one of those things, you spend $40, you get $20 in sales. So you have to dig really deep into each individual Amazon ad and each individual keyword within them. And the great thing about having multiple books is it just makes it easier for you to experiment. So when you create an ad set, you can create an ad set that promotes all of your books instead of just one book. And that makes it easier for you to run more ads, get seen more often. And Amazon ads, you could get millions of impressions very affordably. It's not pay per impression, but it's more of it's cost per click, but you do get a ton of impressions from it. It's just a matter of always keeping an eye on the profitability just to make sure you're not burning money and it looks good in your KDP dashboard, but on your credit card, it doesn't look so good. So just keeping an eye on the expenses, cost per click, ACoS, if you keep that under 70%. Honestly, if you get that to under 60%, that would be even better. And just focus on your winning ads and continue to double down on them.
So what budget do you suggest to get into Amazon ads?
What quadrant?
I mean, what budget? What $100, $200? What do you suggest?
So Amazon ads are a little weird in the sense. So for anyone who's done Facebook ads, like if you set your budget at $5, they will spend that $5 very quickly. If you set it at 11 p.m., they will get it spent before midnight. Amazon, I have a whole bunch of ads that are like $50 per day budgets, but I'm lucky if $1 gets spent. So it would definitely be safe for a lot of people to do $5 per day to get started. Don't expect all 5 of those dollars to be spent. That's just the way Amazon works. That's why a lot of the Amazon people who run Amazon ads and they're making a ton of income from that, they have hundreds of different ad sets running. They're targeting tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands individual keywords because you set the budget. There's no way Amazon is spending all that. You got to create a ton of ads to gain the momentum. And then once you see which ones work, that's when you double down on those.
Wow. For those of you that just got into this live, we're talking with Marc, and he's one of the youngest best-selling authors in the United States. His online school has thousands of students, and we're pretty excited with his teaching. Tonight, we're addressing one of the subject of one of his best-selling books, how to make money with non-fiction books, and we're pretty excited to hear you, Marc. So the rest of the time belongs to you, and just keep on teaching us, empowering us, and inspiring us. Hey guys, he has a YouTube channel. Go to his YouTube channel, subscribe, go to his Instagram account, and follow him. You're gonna be inspired with Marc.
Definitely appreciate the plugs. I think we could go into social media on this next because part of making money with nonfiction books, it's not just about writing the books, promoting them when they come out, but there's a big difference between promoting your book to 100 Instagram followers and promoting it to 100,000 Instagram followers. So I'm just going to share some strategies you can use to grow on your social media. And when it comes to social media growth, and we'll talk about how this ties into book sales later. Like, building a platform is obvious, but we'll talk more about the specifics, how social media fits into this. But when it comes to growing your platform, one of the common mistakes is that you see Twitter, you see Facebook, you see Instagram, you see YouTube, you see Pinterest, you see TikTok now. I'm not on that, but you see it. And you think you got to grow on every single one of those platforms. So you decide to create content for every single one of those platforms. You put in the effort on every single one of those platforms, but that's not how it's going to work for you unless you have a team behind you. The people who it seems like they got right out of the gate and they mastered like every single social network and they have big audiences on all of them, they have teams behind them. And if you're someone who doesn't have a team behind them, you can't operate your business as if you have a team behind you. You have to acknowledge where you are and take the best steps based on where you are. So instead of trying to focus on every single social network, just think about 2. The reason I recommend 2 is because you could build bridges. So I'm going to use Instagram and YouTube as the example. Pedro mentioned those 2 platforms, which I'm very active on. So with the YouTube, I create videos that I do keyword research for, so I have a better chance at ranking in the algorithm. But one of the things I also do is I promote my Instagram. So I have a bunch of people from YouTube who like my videos, and then they head over to Instagram. And now what that's doing is that's bringing in more people to my Instagram. That's going to give me more likes per post because there's more people who are engaging with my content. So now I have a bigger Instagram boost in the algorithm, because getting, let's say, 20 likes versus getting 50 likes, that's going to make a big difference on how many people Instagram decides to show the post to. So now we have the YouTube traffic coming into Instagram, and the Instagram, I have YouTube as my bio. You can actually go there right now. You will see on my Instagram that I have the YouTube channel as my bio. And I've even been working on, you'll see soon, some posts for me where I'm specifically promoting past YouTube videos, telling people to check out my YouTube channel through a link in my bio. And in my Instagram story, I am usually promoting the new video as it comes out. So I'm using YouTube to bring traffic to Instagram. That helps me with the Instagram algorithm. It introduces me to people who previously had no idea who I was through Instagram, much like something like this live. Now, people who find me on Instagram the first time, they see my YouTube. They get curious and they want to learn more. They go over to my YouTube. That gives me a boost in the YouTube algorithm. So now YouTube, because of all the extra likes and comments my YouTube videos get because of this, YouTube is going to have a bigger reason to promote my videos in their algorithm based on the keywords I chose. Wow. And now we're getting into the circle here, because YouTube's promoting my videos. I'm getting more traffic from them. And now new people who first saw me on YouTube, they see that I promote my Instagram. Those new people go to my Instagram. And then those people who go to my Instagram will see my YouTube thing, and they just never saw me before. Now they see me on Instagram. Now they see me. So it's a continuous circle. It's a cycle. And you have it with two social networks. When you lock it down with two social networks, it gets so much easier to grow. You just slap on a third social network in there. Maybe next thing you do is Pinterest. Next thing you do is a Facebook group. So that's the idea of how some people get really big on multiple social networks, like Vine. A lot of the people who became Vine famous, where they weren't that big on any other social network, they suddenly became large on Vine. A lot of those people made it even when Vine shut down, because they spent the time building their Twitter. They spent the time building their Facebook. They directed their Vine followers to the their other platforms. So that's part of the growing on all of your social networks. And then you have to get them on your email list, because the email list, it's a big difference between having 10,000 Twitter followers, Instagram followers, YouTube subscribers versus having 10,000 email subscribers. So you always have to have a way of directing people to your email list. I have a bunch of free content that, if it's like a virtual summit, like Content Marketing Success Summit, my free ebook, 27 Ways to Get More Retweets on Twitter. That's been a top one for me on Twitter, and I have that as a pinned tweet to get more people on your email list. But you always have to be thinking, like, yes, you want to grow on social media and build your platform and leverage those algorithms, but you have to be thinking, how do I get these people then to go on my email list?
Wow, wow. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So what do you think about books conferences? Because I know some authors are very shy to go on a conference. You know, they prefer to be behind the scene. What do you think about it? Do you think it's really effective to go on conferences like you? You're always training people online, and I seen some of your advertising. You had some great authors conferences inside the United States. What has been your experience as an author, speaking to people face to face?
So when it comes to conferences, like earlier I mentioned, podcasting is a way to build relationships. Conferences really bring that to the next scale because it's the in-person stuff. And the thing with the conferences is, if you go in there with a plan, you're going to get better results. If you go into a conference just to learn, then just watch YouTube videos. Just look at lives like this one. I mean, I've said a lot of stuff you would probably already hear at a conference. The value of the conference isn't the educational material. The educational material is good, but the bigger value is that you are being surrounded by hundreds, if not thousands, of authors. So for me, it wouldn't make sense for me to go to a conference around fiction, but it would make sense for me to go to a conference about nonfiction, for me to like book marketing, the business of self-publishing. Those type of conferences make more sense. And then conferences related to your book. So I have a book, Podcast Domination. Going to conferences like Podcast Movement makes a lot of sense for me because that's my book material. So it's really great to go to conferences. If you can find them close to you, then it's just a drive. It's definitely more affordable because hotel and plane, those expenses can rack up very quickly. So be smart about which ones you choose, but go into each conference with a plan, and then a day after the conference, like 4 days or 7 days later, but a specific day on the calendar, have that as a day where you will take action based on what you learn. Too many people, they go to a conference, they write all their notes, and they don't take action. If you set a day on your calendar a week after the conference to take action on what you learned, that's going to be really helpful for each. So just go into any conference with a plan, but they are really great.
Wow. On the edition part, sometimes as an author, we wrote a book. We have it there, but it is so expensive to find a good editor. What resources do you advise we as authors we can have access very affordable?
So you can go to Fiverr if you want an editor. I actually have a different approach on this. My preferred approach is to just edit my own work. I've done this with over 24 books, so that's just the experience I come in with this. And I understand it's not perfect. I understand, like, you know, typos may be a thing, and you see that in all those books. Like, there's a lot of books that even though they have editing, like, you still see some stuff. So the reason I go for this approach is, do I want to spend $1,000 on an editor and then I have to make 500 sales and it's $2 to break even? Or do I just do some DIY editing? If I see a typo in it later, I could go back to it, because you could do that with a book, a self-published. You could always go back to it. It's not like you publish it and you can never make changes again. You can always go back. And if you aren't sure about that, then an easy way to edit and more likely catch mistakes is to create audiobooks. So now you're getting paid to do the editing, because when you read the audiobook, you read the mistakes. So a sentence that sounds really weird, like, let's say there is 4 ways to grow your YouTube channel. Like, you will catch that when you read it. And when you speak it out, you'll catch it. And then at the end of this editing process, you have an audiobook that you can put up on Amazon.
Wow. Incredible. Mark, while I was searching on your Amazon page, I couldn't figure out which was the first book you ever wrote. Because I know that first book, even though had some mistakes at the beginning stages, but I know that book was the gateway to introduce you into the world of writing books. Tell us, how was it like?
So when you write your first book, you always think it's good. I feel like I thought that with my book when I wrote it. Right now, like, looking at like book number 20 versus book number 1. So my first book was the one, Honest Ways to Make Money Online. So very sketchy title, but you know, it is what it was. But it was just a way for me to get started. Once I hit the publish button, I got very comfortable with it. I published another book that was just 18 pages. Again, these are very small books that I wrote in the beginning, and then I built up as I went on. But when you hit the publish button, that's a way to knock out the fear. That's a way for you to just get more. You want to hit the publish button more. Once you hit the first time and you hit the second time, it's like, I want to hit the publish button 20th time. I want to write more books. That's just the way it works for me. So just to get the book out there, even if we're talking 10 pages, even if we're talking like 5,000 words, it's not something that like I wouldn't do those for all of my books. Like I like the 80 to 100, the 15 to 20,000 words, just 80 to 100 pages. But even if you just start with 3,000 to 5,000 words, just for the sake of getting something out with your name on it, even if you don't pay anything for the cover or for the editing, like you create your own cover, just to get something out there, and then you can fix it later. You can always go back to a book and add more content to it. I've done this for some of my books where maybe the content was a little outdated and the sales were still coming in, and I did make updates to the books and I add more content to it. So you can just publish a book, just get it out quickly, just for the sake of having something out there. Like you did it, you're an author, and you can go back to any book at any time to add more content.
Wow. Yes. In Latin America, in the Hispanic regions, we always have that mentality that the book has to be 200 pages book, that the book has to be big, you know. So we don't see ourselves writing a 10, 15, or 20 pages book. So your insight is very fresh and interesting. You know, just to get your book out there, even if it's 10 pages, 12 pages, 15 pages, and the fact about coming back to the book to see if there's any mistake, to fix what needs to be fixed, to edit here, edit there. That is great. Have you ever co-authored any book with somebody else?
Just the Write and Grow Rich. That was the book that became a USA Today, Wall Street Journal bestseller. Co-authoring, it just makes everything easier. Like you do have to split royalties, but it makes the marketing easier because it's more than just you. You write the book twice as fast because you've got someone else working with you. And I'm actually doing some co-authoring. I partnered up with someone, so you may see a book co-authored by me in the near future. But I think co-authoring is a really great strategy. It could be good for anyone from aspiring authors. Maybe you want help from a friend, like an accountability project that also helps you grow your business. And maybe you know someone in your network who you each have big audiences, you each want to grow, and writing a book makes a lot of sense for you guys to do it together instead of just going individual paths.
And are you open to go overseas to teach authors or aspiring authors?
Yeah, I mean, as long as the topic makes sense, as long as the schedule makes sense, because you don't want to rush into too many projects. You don't want to say yes to everything. I know a guy who, he had a ton of speaking gigs. He decided he would say yes to every single speaking gig. So he got on a lot of stages because he was already a pretty well-known speaker. And the issue with him saying yes to everything is that he said yes to a free gig, and then a $10,000 speaking gig came and said, do you want to speak at our place? And he couldn't because there was a date conflict with the free thing he said yes to. So you don't want to say yes to everything because that can really hurt you. If you say yes to all these different opportunities, then it's opportunity culture. You say yes to one thing, you have to say no to other things. But when it does make sense, when it's a good fit, it doesn't matter if you're like in the US or you're overseas, it's just something that makes sense.
Yes, it is very interesting for the people to know that Marc is available to travel overseas, to teach, to train authors. Actually, he mentors a lot of authors, and he's teaching thousands of students through his online school. Marc, through the Breakthrough podcast, Breakthrough Your Success, how do you pick authors? How do you pick participants? Do people come to you and ask you to let them be on your Breakthrough podcast, or you pick them?
So when you're first starting out as a podcast, you definitely have to do a lot of outreach just because people don't know who you are yet. But because Breakthrough Success, we're now over 500 episodes strong. The show is really taken off. I get 20 pitches at least every week. of people who
Wow.
want to be on the show. So it's kind of just a selection process of who in there makes the most sense for the show. I do some outreach for the show, but I do 5 episodes a week on that one. I have 2 other podcasts, and I'm doing 8 episodes a week, not including Instagram and YouTube and books and other stuff. So it's just a little more difficult time-wise for me to outreach to people who I want on the show, but I have more than enough pitches coming in. And for a lot of podcasts, you really just have to do 1 a week, so it's not too difficult to embrace that for your business.
When we gonna have Mark in Latin America through his translated books into Spanish? When is going to happen? Because you have a bunch of books already. I mean, you know in English speaking countries. When we going to read Spanish version books from Mark?
I have experimented with that idea. I haven't really made any. I haven't taken action on it yet. But I have thought of that idea of the translation. I just don't know about what goes into it, cost, and things like that. So I really have no experience when it comes to that. I'm not the best guy to ask, but it is certainly great.
What languages do you prefer? What languages do you prefer? When thinking about having your books translated into other languages, any specific languages that comes to your mind? French, Korean, Chinese, Portuguese?
I would have to think Spanish, because you want to pick a language that has a lot of people speaking it. So that's one part of the process. If you pick a language that not as many people know, you're just not going to be able to get as many sales for your book. English is a language that I've been born with, and it's a commonly spoken language. There's a lot of languages that are commonly spoken. Spanish is certainly one of them. And then that would also make ranking with Amazon ads in Spain a lot easier, something that hasn't worked as well for me with my English books. So being able, when you write in a different language and it matches up with enough of the Amazon stores that are outside of the US, then it makes more sense to do that type of a language. So if I were to embrace it, then Spanish would definitely be my first language. I'd build from there based on how well those books do.
Mark, we just got 9 minutes left in this live, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you on behalf of Pedro Luis Ministries. Some of my Spanish-speaking followers, they bilingual, so they understand most of what we're discussing today. Thank you for inspiring authors. Thank you for coaching authors. Thank you for being a light in the United States. We know there's been a conflict globally about racism, and this life about you and me teaching people, talking to people. That is a teaching to them that there are people out there that they don't care about the skin color. There are authors out there who are humble. It is very challenging to approach authors sometimes. From authors to authors, it is challenging to approach, but I found that you have a very humble spirit, and I thank you for that. And the best is ahead of you. The best is yet to come to your life. And I know more books are coming and more people will be empowered through your teaching. For those of you that don't know Mark, you can find him on Amazon. He has tons of books. He's a USA best-selling author. You have been listening to him almost for an hour. I want you to follow him on Instagram. Go and subscribe on his YouTube channel and buy his book. Purchase his books. He got lots of books in Amazon for $0.99 on the Kindle version, and I seen books of $7, $5. So go and purchase, read his books, and share it with someone out there. Mark, if there's anything else that you want to share with the people, if there's any current offer on your program, just share it with that. We'll be glad to get it if we can.
Pedro, this has been really awesome. I mean, you shared a lot of stuff about me already, the Instagram, the YouTube, and the books. I also have my Content Marketing Plaza. It's my flagship content marketing course for anyone who wants to take a deeper dive into their content marketing. Basically, how do they gain more visibility? How do they create content? How do they monetize it? That's over at contentmarketingplaza.com for anyone who's interested. And you guys can always DM if you have any questions or anything like that.
Hey, thank you so much. And I want to thank every one of you who's been online. I know I got a bunch of people from India. We got a bunch of people from Pakistan. We got a bunch of people from England, South Africa, Dominican Republic, New York. We got people from Pennsylvania who are listening to you. We got people from Nebraska. We got people from Washington. We got people from Miami, Kissimmee. There's a bunch of people out there hearing us and enjoying this conversation. Marc, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to read more of your books, and also I look forward to for another opportunity that we're able to empower aspiring authors and other authors, maybe not through Instagram, but maybe we can go on a Zoom on Facebook, because I think through Facebook it is a little more open and we can reach out a lot of more people. So thank you very much, Marc, and God bless you, and see you very soon.
My pleasure, Pedro. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.